Hey guys, it's me, Ryan Swag. This is a clip from my live stream SwagTips, where I talk about the best counters to the best gym defenders and how to formulate your best kind of general gym smashing battle party. This is actually part 2 of a 3-part series here. This part focuses on building the battle parties. The first part talks about the best counters to the best defenders in general. And in the third part, we'll talk about more alternative options, since the first 2 videos mostly highlight the rare and legendary boys that you might not have. So yeah, so if you're just starting here, you might want to watch the first video first, but if you're kind of savvy with that, then starting here is not a bad choice. And if you finish this video and you're like, oh man, what about like, I don't have a Raikou, then check out the third part, coming soon. So yeah, so you got battle parties. I think it's like 5 teams that you can make. You can pre-make some teams of 6 Pokemon, and then rather than having to select them all when you go to battle a gym or battle a raid, you can just tap to the side and select the battle party that you already have pre-made. When I first started preparing this content, I was looking at making 2 different battle parties. One for the normal type lead situation, and then the other one for like more like aberrant kind of situations. And yeah, what I found was you can change your battle party like on the fly, and if you change like one thing about it, then like it's kind of like permanently changed until you change it again. And another thing is that if you have a Pokemon in your battle party and you like swap, like let's say your lead Pokemon with another Pokemon in your battle party, then it just swaps them in the thing, so you still have the same 6 Pokemon that you are going to use to fight the gym with. So I felt, since there was a ton of overlap between the 2 separate squads, that I could condense it into just one squad now, because you can just tap and swap those 2 Pokemon. You still have the same 6 Pokemon on a squad, and then for the remainder of the time that you're fighting that specific gym, it'll be lined up the way you want it to. So very helpful, very nice. So what does this mean for your battle party, right? So looking at this, you're probably thinking, well, I'm going to want to have at least 1 fighting type. And no, you're gonna want more than 1 fighting type. And the reason why you want to have 2 fighting types on your battle party is because anything that fights Blissey is basically gonna faint to Blissey, like if it's fully motivated. And even if it's like partway motivated, if you flub up a dodge against a Dazzling Gleam or a Psychic, then your fighting type Pokemon's gonna be hurting. Basically any Pokemon that fights Blissey is going to be hurting. It's kind of a direct trade, like 1-to-1, if you're going to do like a no back out kind of battle. Blissey trades fights pretty well. So for your personal battle party, optimizing your battle party for gym offense, I'd say 2 fighting types is where you want to start out. Machamp, Hariyama, Mewtwo, any of them, very good. Personally, I like to use 3 fighting types in my squad, just in case. And most often, you're only going to be using 1 or 2 of them to begin with, but I think it's kind of good to have that assurance that you'll be able to handle any sort of gym situation, especially a gym that has Pokemon that are just all weak to fighting, so all your fighting types get worn out right away. Well, what are you going to do then? So then after having the 2 to 3 fighting types in your battle party, the next Pokemon that I 100% recommend to have in your battle party is Tyranitar. And Tyranitar is super formidable, handles so many situations so well. And when I pull up the numbers, you're going to see that Tyranitar is basically the only Pokemon that doesn't get a switch forced on it. The only time you really want to switch out Tyranitar is if you're up against another Tyranitar, because Tyranitar resists all Tyranitar's hits, or if you're up against a fairy type here. But yeah, no, Tyranitar can handle so many different things. And then for a more demotivated gym, Tyranitar with that crunch, the 3-bar charge move, if you're up against a fully demotivated gym, or a gym that just has a bunch of trash picks in it, then just being able to blast them all with crunch right away very quickly can make the gym experience go very smooth, very fast. So yeah, I think Tyranitar is pretty essential for a good generalized gym fighting battle party. And another thing is with the fighting types, when you come up against these confusion Pokemon, since confusion hurts so much, if you're swapping in something to fight against them, you could swap in, your Raikou or, another Pokemon to fight against them, but they're going to still be taking a couple extra confusion hits when they come in, which is going to cost you some more potions. Not very comfortable getting hit by the confusions. Tyranitar swaps in, and he literally does not care about the confusion. He's like, yeah, okay, you hit me with confusion. Well, what's it to me? I'm a Tyranitar. And then he just crunches them all down. So, yeah, so 2 to 3 fighting types, 1 Tyranitar. This is the battle party. Boom. And then after that, definitely want that Raikou. Yeah, Raikou's just way too good. The one thing that these fighting types here don't handle super well, and Tyranitar also doesn't handle super well, is, these more pure fairies. And Tyranitar, even though he can deal with these three, I feel like a Tyranitar would prefer not to. And these 5 scenarios are scenarios that Raikou handles extremely well. Just kind of jumps in and wild charges them down, doesn't care. The fairy types, they're pretty punny. They're weak to the neutral hits. Their main niche is to throw off Dragonites, Tyranitars, and fighting types. And yeah, Raikou just makes quick work of them. And then just like Tyranitar, Raikou is a very good kind of secondary, kind of adjunct counter to these 4. If you find yourself in that situation where it's like, they're demotivated, or you already have a bunch of energy from your last KO, and you're still using Raikou, keeping Raikou in to fight these guys isn't that bad of an idea. Then you have the 4th Pokemon. The fourth type, I guess, but where am I? Where is Ryan Swag? But yeah, so who's the 6th member of this smash 'em, beat 'em all up battle party? Me, I like to use Dragonite. Dragonite's kind of a potion-efficient Pokemon and can kind of go through things pretty fast. But I'd say the 6th slot is pretty open. Kind of open house. If you're in an area where it's sunny often, then Entei can make a pretty good option there. And then another good option that I don't have on this guy here, kind of left him out. You got Groudon. That's a Groudon art. Yeah, so Groudon, also a great option using the Solar Beam. Can help you out with blasting down water types more quickly, especially the slow dudes here. And if it's sunny outside, it becomes a great option against the 4 normals as well. But Entei also has similar swag going on. I guess it kind of comes down to personal preference, what your forecast is, and what you already have powered up. Yeah, so for your 6th slot option, I'd say go with something that you already have at the ready, unless you do kind of want to invest, or if you've noticed that in your local meta, a certain type of defender or strategy is trending, and you want to have a special 6th slot option in your team to handle that a bit better, then doing that's also good. Another really potent option is also that Kyogre guy. Yeah, this is what a Kyogre looks like. So yeah, Kyogre, also a very good 6th slot option. And a quick thing that I looked into yesterday was Kyogre paired with Raikou, even outside of the rain, is a really good duo. If you got the fighting types handling the normals, there isn't really much that comes between Raikou and Kyogre, because as you can imagine, Raikou is pretty stopped short by this Donphan boy. The fighting types and Tyranitar don't really like Donphan either, but Kyogre or Vaporeon or Gyarados, they all eat Donphan for breakfast. So yeah, pairing any of those 3 water types with Raikou can also make for a potent, optimized kind of gym offense. So yeah, play it by your preference. I told you guys I was going to bring some numbers into this. This here is a whole mess of numbers, right? Kind of ugly to look at. And basically what this is these are the attackers that I decided to look at. I used Latios instead of Dragonite because I was looking at the Dragon type Pokemon that we have coming out soon, and I was kind of weighing them in a bunch of different fighting matchups, and I ended up using Latios for doing this data collection because I'm trying to make the Gen 3 kind of defender tier list right now. So I figured basing it off of the best dragon would probably be, show you who the best defenders are, for all of Gen 3. Basically, the majority of their matchups are similar, so you can consider this to basically be Dragonite, even though it is going to be different in certain matchups. So yeah, I looked at Entei, Latios, Raikou, Machamp, Mewtwo Focus Blast, Mewtwo Shadow Ball, Tyranitar, Groudon, and just for funsies, I combined the non-red data from Focus Blast Mewtwo with the white data from Shadow Ball Mewtwo and combine them together. So it's like, oh, it's Mewtwo, it's got both. And I just want to see what that looked like. Because I wanted to see how Mewtwo kind of overall compared to Raikou. So yeah, and then the fenders I used for this were Blissey, Snorlax, Chansey, Slaking, Milotic, Slowbro, Lapras, Vaporeon, Gyarados, Dragonite, Walrein, Gardevoir, Clefable, Donphan, and Steelix. And as far as the best goes on them, that was just a signifier for me that I was using their most optimal moveset against the attacker. Where everybody else, I just used their generalized most optimal moveset to kind of keep things a little bit, I guess, fair, if you will. Actually, slight lag. Gyarados also got complicated with what he was using against people. There we go. Yeah. So the red spots here indicate switches, so stuff that they can't handle or really don't want to handle. So obviously, like Shadow Ball Mewtwo, that's Ghost type damage. Ghost type damage ain't got nothing on normal types. Normal types have that doubled up immunity to your resistance. So if you want to have a good time fighting Blissey, Shadow Ball Mewtwo, or Gengar, for example, with Shadow Ball, not how you're gonna get that done well. So, and then what I replaced the numbers with was a reasonable swap in. So for stuff that literally Shadow Ball Mewtwo. So for Shadow Ball Mewtwo here, I used Machamp's data, and then I added 5 seconds to the time, and then took away from the other scores. I didn't explain what all these columns are, have I? Column 1 for the attacker is their time to win. Column 2 is their power, which is like their TDO, or how much HP they have left over. And then the third column is Pokebattler's overall ranking. So yeah, that's what these 3 columns are representing. I didn't think I'd be showing this off, but I felt like it was a nice way to show off like how the best attackers are the best attackers. So kind of like, okay, using Shadow Ball Mewtwo, you're up against normal types, you're going to swap in a fighting type. But, you know, you have to have time to swap that fighting type in, which is like 3 seconds. I went with 5. And then also, you know, you're going to take some hits from swapping in too. And then I use that to come up with these bottom numbers here, and they're color coded for like who's the best for what reason and why. And then I subtracted 10 from their overall scores for each kind of switch out scenario that they had, because even though it really doesn't like hurt them, you're still swapping out that Pokemon, which means they're not that good compared to other Pokemon if they got to swap out a lot. And yeah, what I found from all this is that Raikou is kind of the best gym generalist if you look at it under this sort of perspective, averaging all their performances together and, you know, being kind of reasonable about switches. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. Before I took away from the swap out scores, I was seeing that Entei, Machamp, and Focus Blast Mewtwo were all doing really good. But then when I like got a little bit harsher on their performances, they kind of homogenized a bit. They're all like, you know, 118, 116, 119. So, you know. And Tyranitar is pretty cool. Stands out from the whole crowd here, aside from this special boy, in that he doesn't really have to switch. That he can handle everything pretty reasonably well. And I guess like an argument that you could have against this model is that, you know, Milotic is a straight upgrade to Vaporeon, and they're essentially the same Pokemon. You know, similar with Walrein and Lapras. You know, so it kind of influences the score in a weird way. So I made this sheet here that subtracted what I felt were like overlapping Pokemon that were doing the same thing. And with making this new sort of way, trimmed a bit to look at the merits of attackers for their own specific thing against these more generalized situations. Yeah, I just have Snorlax here to represent the normal types since Blissey's ridiculously polarizing, right? It was basically the same results. Raikou being slightly, you know, ahead of the pack a bit, and everyone else kind of homogenizing. Without so many normal types in the mix, Shadow Ball Mewtwo stepped up a lot. And I left the colors the same from the last one. I didn't recolor code them, so don't let that throw you off. But yeah, Tyranitar is basically as good as the Shadow Ball Mewtwo is. all things considered, still not swapping out because he's a boss. So yeah, so some math here to back up your picks, even though this is Latios, right? Uh, yeah, when Latios comes out, I feel Latios will be a bit better of a gym generalist than Dragonite is. Probably not so good that like you're basically dumb if you don't power up a Latios. No, they're basically the same. It's just the psychic typing gives it some nice resistances that Dragonite doesn't have. So yeah, that's why I went with it. And this data is going to be going into the defender tier list. Still working out the model, but I felt the information I have now can substantiate why the attacker picks are really good, potent, powerful picks. And then if you're kind of curious, like Tyranitar doesn't have to switch out, but what if he took like a small kind of rating hit for swapping out like these other guys are, but more like voluntary because certain things are obviously going to do a job a bit better than Tyranitar will. So I did that. Yeah, so I started swapping stuff out that was strictly better, and I found that it really didn't influence his score in a big way. So like the overall kind of score was going up with each kind of like positive swap, but when I started like taking points off for swapping out, he basically stayed in the same spot. So yeah, it's kind of up to your discretion, like how you want to handle Tyranitar. But I think above all else, this really does substantiate Tyranitar as being like a for sure pick on a good gym offense team. And yeah, you can definitely see here that Groudon is swagging pretty hard too. So with that Solar Beam set, and then here I also combined Kyogre with Raikou. Yeah, I combined their performances, and I also combined its performance with the Latios or the Dragonite, however you want to like think about it. So yeah, basically what I did for Mewtwo here, where I combined the Shadow Ball set with the performance of the Focus Blast set to kind of chimera them together, kind of get like a a complete sort of look like what is Mewtwo as a whole doing. Well, Kyogre had way too many switch-ins because way too many Pokemon resist the Water-type DPS. So I decided to be like, you know what, Raikou and Dragonite, Latios, whatever you want to call them, pair very well with him. And yeah, that's where I found that the Kyogre Raikou combination there was super potent, very good score. So yeah, so some numbers to back up some of the gym attacker picks. So once again, that was a clip from my live stream SwagTips. This is the second part of the 3-part series, and this part focused on building the best sort of general battle party. Just a reminder, the first part talks about how to counter the best defenders and why the best defenders are kind of the best defenders, if you're interested in that. And the next part coming soon, probably will be linked below, and a little thing will pop up in the corner once I have it up. It'll talk about more like alternative, more common options rather than the legendary and rare boys I just got done talking about. So, and it'll also talk about potion efficient options. As always, if you like this video, you like this content, make sure to hit that like, comment to let me know any questions you might have, or maybe you just want to tell me that I'm a cool guy, or maybe you want me to investigate something for another video topic. Go right ahead. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, because why wouldn't you? Oh, what's holding you back, man? SwagTips. Did I say potion efficient again?